The research station hung like a silent sentinel against the endless black of space, its metallic skin reflecting pinpricks of distant starlight. Inside, HFY Park leaned closer to the quantum mapping screen, her breath creating a small fog on the glass surface. Something was different tonight. The sensors had been picking up strange quantum fluctuations for weeks, but tonight felt special. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, evidence of hours spent analyzing data that made no sense to anyone else. Jae-sung Kim walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. He knew that look on Hye-won's face, the look of someone who was about to discover something extraordinary. "What's happening?" he asked, placing 1 coffee beside her. The screen flickered. Most would have ignored the tiny blip of energy, but not Hye-won. Her fingers moved quickly, isolating the signal, triangulating its origin. It was coming from a region of space that was supposed to be empty, completely devoid of any known matter or energy signatures. The phantoms. That's what the scientific community had nicknamed these impossible creatures. No one had ever seen one. No one had ever captured evidence of their existence beyond theoretical mathematical models and strange quantum anomalies. "Look," she whispered, to Jae-sung, her finger tracing a complex pattern of light and shadow on the screen. The energy signature was unlike anything in known scientific databases. It shifted, changed, disappeared, and reappeared in locations that should have been impossible to reach. The research station was positioned in the most remote part of human-explored space, specifically chosen to study these theoretical quantum life forms. Most of her colleagues thought she was chasing ghosts. Quantum creatures that could exist in multiple states simultaneously, that could potentially move through different dimensional layers. It sounded like science fiction, but Hye-won knew better. The mathematical models were too precise. The occasional energy readings too consistent to be random noise or equipment malfunction. Jae-sung watched her work, admiring her intense concentration. They had been research partners for 3 years, and he had never seen someone so dedicated to proving something that most scientists considered impossible. The quantum mapping screen suddenly shifted. A strange pattern emerged. Complex, beautiful, almost like a living mathematical equation. It wasn't random, it had structure, it had intelligence. "Do you see that?" Hye-won's voice was barely a whisper. The energy pattern moved. Not like a typical energy wave, but with purpose, with intention. It danced across the screen, creating geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with an internal rhythm. Their research station was equipped with the most advanced sensors humanity had ever created. Sensors that could detect the smallest quantum fluctuations, that could measure energy in ways previous generations of scientists could only dream about. And right now, those sensors were recording something extraordinary. The energy signature wasn't just moving, it was communicating. Each shift, each pulse, each subtle change carried information. Complex, multi-layered information that suggested something was observing them, just as they were observing it. Hye-won's hands moved across the controls, recording every millisecond of the interaction. Her heart raced. This was more than a scientific discovery. This was first contact. Jae-sung leaned closer, his coffee forgotten. The screen showed something that defied everything they knew about physics, about life, about the very nature of existence. The phantom, if that's what it truly was, seemed to be testing them, probing, exploring. Not with aggression, but with a curiosity that felt almost gentle. "We need to be careful," Jae-sung muttered. "We don't know what this is." But Hye-won was beyond careful. She was consumed by the moment, by the potential of what they were experiencing. Something was reaching out. Something was trying to communicate, and humanity was finally ready to listen. The quantum mapping screen continued to dance with impossible light, promising secrets yet to be understood. The research base hummed with quiet energy. Hye-won stood in front of massive holographic displays, her fingers moving like a dancer across complex quantum interfaces. Around her, computer screens flickered with impossible mathematical equations and energy patterns that seemed to breathe and move. Most scientists would have given up. The phantom, That strange quantum creature they had briefly contacted was more complicated than anyone could imagine. It wasn't just about tracking something, it was about understanding something, fundamentally different from any known life form. Jae-sung watched her work, drinking strong black coffee. He knew HFY was different. Where other researchers saw dead ends, she saw puzzles waiting to be solved. "We're not hunting," she muttered, more to herself than to Jae-sung. "We're communicating." The conventional tracking methods had all failed. Military teams had tried powerful sensors. Scientific expeditions had used advanced scanning technologies. Nothing worked. The Phantom moved like a ghost, existing in multiple places at once, slipping through dimensional boundaries that shouldn't even exist. HFY's approach was radical. Instead of trying to trap or detect the creature, she was attempting to understand its fundamental nature. She studied complex ecological systems, quantum entanglement theories, and bizarre mathematical models that most of her colleagues considered pure fantasy. Her computer screens showed intricate simulations. Waves of energy danced across holographic displays, representing potential communication frequencies. Each simulation was like a complex musical composition, with layers of quantum information replacing traditional sound waves. "Look," she told Jae-sung, pointing at a particular simulation. "It's not about finding the Phantom, it's about creating an environment where it might choose to reveal itself." The simulation showed how different environmental conditions could potentially attract or repel the quantum creature. Temperature, energy frequencies, quantum field variations, everything was a potential communication tool. Jae-sung was skeptical but fascinated. "You're saying we should invite it, not chase it?" HFY nodded. "Exactly. Every previous approach treated the Phantom like a target. We need to treat it like an intelligent being." Her research combined multiple scientific disciplines. Quantum. Physics merged with ecological studies. Theoretical mathematics danced with advanced communication theories. She was building a framework of understanding that went beyond traditional scientific boundaries. The research base was specially designed for unconventional studies. Located in a remote part of space, it had sensors that could detect the smallest quantum fluctuations. Most equipment here was experimental, pushed far beyond standard technological limits. Hours turned into days. Simulations ran continuously. HFY barely slept, her mind constantly processing the complex data. She created environmental models that could potentially match the Phantom's natural quantum habitat. "It's not about capturing," she explained to Jae-sung during a rare break. "It's about creating a space of mutual understanding." Her colleagues thought she was crazy. The Research Council had almost cut their funding multiple times, but HFY knew she was close to something extraordinary. The simulations became more complex. Each model was like a delicate dance, representing potential communication scenarios. Some looked like intricate mathematical fractals. Others resembled strange, pulsing biological systems. Jae-sung started to see what she saw. The Phantom. It wasn't just a creature. It was a form of intelligent energy that moved between dimensional boundaries. Traditional capture methods were useless. They needed a completely new approach. HFY's computer suddenly blinked. A new pattern emerged, different from anything they had seen before. Something was responding to their environmental simulations. "Did you see that?" she whispered. Jae-sung nodded, his coffee forgotten. The screen showed a quantum signature that seemed to pulse with curiosity. They weren't just researching anymore. They were having a conversation in a language no human had ever spoken before. The unconventional approach was working. Slowly, carefully, they were building a bridge to something completely unknown, and they were just getting started. The research station felt different that night. Something electric hung in the air, making the hair on HFY's arms stand up. The quantum simulation chamber glowed with soft blue light, humming with a low, steady frequency that seemed to breathe. Jae-sung watched carefully as HFY adjusted the final settings. Months of work had led to this moment. Their environmental simulation was a delicate mix of energy frequencies, quantum field manipulations, and carefully calculated mathematical patterns. "Ready?" she asked, her hand hovering over the activation switch. The room was silent except for the gentle hum of advanced computers. Outside the station's windows, space stretched endless and black, filled with millions of invisible mysteries. When HFY pressed the switch, nothing seemed to happen at first. The quantum frequencies began to pulse, soft at first, then stronger. They weren't looking for the phantom, they were inviting it. Minutes passed. Then something changed. A slight shimmer appeared in the center of the simulation chamber. It wasn't a solid object, more like a distortion in space, a waves of impossible colors that didn't exist in any normal spectrum. The shimmer moved, not like a physical object, but like a thought taking shape. Jae-sung held his breath. "Don't move," he whispered. The quantum distortion responded to their environmental simulation. It wasn't attacking, it wasn't fleeing. It was investigating. Each pulse of their carefully designed frequency was met with a corresponding quantum response. HFY's hands moved across the control panel, recording every microsecond of the interaction. Her heart raced, but her movements remained steady and controlled. This was more than a scientific experiment. This was first contact. The shimmer began to take shape. Not a physical shape that human eyes could easily understand, but a complex, quantum structure that shifted and changed. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, like watching a mathematical equation come to life. "It's communicating," HFY said softly. The phantom, if that's what it truly was, wasn't just responding to their frequencies. It was creating its own complex communication pattern. Each movement was a language, each shift a sentence in a conversation beyond human understanding. Jae-sung watched the computer screens. Complex data streams scrolled faster than any human could read. Mathematical models tried to translate the quantum interactions, but they were barely scratching the surface. The simulation chamber felt like it was breathing. The quantum distortion moved closer, not threateningly, but with a sense of curiosity. It was studying them just as they were studying it. HFY realized something important. This wasn't about capturing the phantom. This was about understanding it. About creating a bridge between two completely different forms of existence. Her fingers moved carefully, adjusting the frequencies. Each adjustment was like playing a complex musical instrument. The phantom responded, its quantum structure shifting, in response to their communication attempts. For a moment, everything stopped. The quantum distortion paused. It seemed to be thinking, considering, analyzing. Then it did something unexpected. It reached out, not with a physical touch, but with a quantum connection that made the entire research station vibrate with energy. Computers flickered, lights pulsed. The very fabric of space seemed to bend around them. Jae-sung grabbed HFY's hand. "How are you seeing this?" he whispered. They were witnessing something no human had ever seen before, a form of communication that went beyond language, beyond physics, beyond everything they understood about life and existence. The phantom was making first contact, and nothing would ever be the same again. The research station felt different now. Something had changed in the hours since their first quantum interaction. HFY understood that capturing the phantom wasn't about force, it was about invitation. Her computer screens displayed complex patterns of energy and quantum frequencies. Each simulation was like a delicate dance, creating an environment of trust rather than aggression. Traditional capture methods would never work with a creature that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Jae-sung watched her work, understanding that they were doing something unprecedented. "We're not trapping it," he said. "We're creating a space where it might choose to stay." The quantum frequencies pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost musical. HFY had discovered that the phantom responded to complex mathematical patterns that mimicked its natural quantum habitat. It wasn't about restricting movement, but about creating an environment of curiosity and safety. Their approach was revolutionary. Where military teams would have used force, they used understanding. Where previous scientific expeditions tried to trap, they were offering a connection. The simulation chamber began to change. Quantum fields shifted, creating a space that was neither fully physical nor completely energy. It was a bridge between different forms of existence. The walls seemed to breathe, changing color and texture in response to the quantum interactions. Hours passed. The Phantom moved through the simulated environment, not like a captured creature, but like an explorer. Its quantum structure shifted and changed, testing the boundaries of the space they had created. Yi-Wan's hands moved carefully across the control panel. Each adjustment was precise, like a musician tuning an impossible instrument. She wasn't controlling the Phantom. She was communicating with it. "Look," she whispered to Jae-sung. The quantum creature was creating its own patterns now. Complex mathematical structures that danced across their senses. It wasn't resisting, it was participating. The research base hummed with energy. Computer systems that had been designed for traditional scientific research now processed information beyond human comprehension. Each moment brought new discoveries. Jae-sung brought coffee, careful not to disturb the delicate quantum environment. "How are we going to report this?" he asked. Yi-Wan smiled. "We're not capturing it. We're creating a dialogue." The Phantom moved through the simulation chamber, its quantum structure changing colors that didn't exist in normal light spectrums. It was studying them just as they were studying it, a mutual investigation. Traditional scientific methods would have failed completely. This required something more: understanding, patience, respect. The Phantom wasn't a specimen to be examined. It was an intelligent entity seeking connection. Slowly, carefully, the quantum creature began to stabilize within their created environment. It wasn't trapped. It was choosing to stay. Each quantum pulse was a conversation, each energy shift. Their response, the Research Council would never understand. They would see this as a capture. But Yi-Wan knew the truth. This was an invitation, a meeting of two completely different forms of intelligence. Jae-sung watched the screens in amazement. The Phantom's quantum structure was now fully visible within their simulation chamber. But it wasn't a prisoner, it was a participant. "We did it," Yi-Wan whispered. The quantum creature pulsed in response, not with aggression, not with fear, but with something that felt remarkably like communication. Hours turned into days. The Phantom remained, its quantum structure dancing through the carefully created environment. It wasn't contained, it was connected. Outside the research station, space remained dark and endless. But inside, something extraordinary was happening. A conversation was taking place, not with words but with quantum frequencies, with mathematical patterns, with pure, beautiful energy. Yi-Wan had done what no one thought possible. She had captured the most elusive creature in the universe, not through force but through understanding. The Phantom continued its quantum dance, a silent partner in humanity's most incredible scientific discovery. The Galactic Research Council meeting was tense. Scientists and military leaders from across human-controlled space sat in a massive circular room, their eyes fixed on Yi-Wan and Jae-sung. "Explain," demanded Dr. Park, the lead council representative, his voice sharp and demanding. Yi-Wan stood calm. Behind her, holographic displays showed the impossible quantum data they had collected. The Phantom wasn't just a creature, it was a messenger. Their research had revealed something extraordinary. The quantum being was part of a complex galactic communication network that humans had never understood. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, carrying information across vast distances of space. "We didn't capture it," Jae-sung explained. "We communicated with it." The quantum creature had chosen to share information, not through traditional language, but through complex mathematical patterns and energy frequencies. It revealed that countless, intelligent species existed in forms humans couldn't even imagine. Humanity had always searched for alien life using traditional methods: radio signals, physical exploration, technological scans. But the universe was more complex than anyone had understood. The Phantom showed them a universe of living energy, intelligent systems that moved between dimensions, communication networks that spanned galaxies, using quantum frequencies as their language. Dr. Park looked skeptical. Military leaders shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the alien contact they had imagined. No invasion, no conflict, just pure, complex communication. "How can we verify this information?" one council member asked. HFY's quantum data told a story beyond human comprehension. The Phantom was offering humanity a chance to understand a larger galactic community. Not through weapons or technology, but through pure intellectual curiosity. The research station's data showed something incredible. The quantum creature had been watching humanity for centuries, waiting, testing, trying to find a species intelligent enough to communicate beyond physical limitations. We were a test, Jae-sung realized, a way to determine if humans could understand complex quantum communication. The revelation was simple but profound. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, but contact wouldn't happen through traditional means. It would happen through understanding, patience, and intellectual exploration. The quantum data revealed entire civilizations that existed in forms humans had never conceived. Energy-based societies, dimensional travelers, living mathematical equations that moved through space like living organisms. And they chose us, a military leader asked, surprised. HFY nodded. Humanity's ability to adapt, to think creatively, to approach problems from unexpected angles, these were the qualities that made them unique. The Phantom had been searching for a species that could break traditional scientific boundaries. A civilization capable of thinking beyond physical limitations. Humanity had passed the test. Council members began asking technical questions. How was communication possible? What were the quantum frequencies? What information had been shared? But the true message was simpler. The universe was more complex and more beautiful than anyone had imagined. Intelligence wasn't about technology or physical form. It was about the ability to understand, to communicate, to explore. Jae-sung looked at HFY. Their unconventional approach had changed everything. No weapons, no aggression. Just pure scientific curiosity. The Phantom continued to exist in their research station, a living reminder of humanity's potential. It wasn't a captured specimen, it was a partner, a bridge to understanding. Outside the meeting room, space remained vast and dark. But something had changed. Humanity now knew they were part of something larger, something more complex and more beautiful than they had ever imagined. "What happens next?" Dr. Park asked. HFY smiled. "We learn," she said simply. "We communicate. We explore." The quantum creature pulsed in the background, a silent witness to humanity's greatest moment of discovery. Not a conquest, not a conflict, but a conversation. A new chapter in human exploration had begun.